welcome back to the Fermented World Homebrew channel. Today we are brewing a beer. We're over this side of the kitchen. We need the hob. We are going to be brewing my beer called Knackers, which is a IPA style almost, a little bit higher ABV than a standard ale. And we have got in this today 200 grams of Crystal 100. We've got 150 grams of crisp flaked torrified oats and Maris Otter 2.5 kg. We've got a big bag of centennial hops. That is the only hops that goes into this beer. This beer is kind of a homage to my friend, and also it was the first beer that I ever brewed that was all grain, that was my own, if you know what I mean. And I kind of tried to match what the liquid malt extract version of my beer tasted, because I was buying the Mangrove Jack's liquid malt kits and I was just whacking in tons of hops. I didn't know what I was doing. I created an okay beer. I had to pare down the bittering hops because it was proper like in your face. But when you had a bottle of it, you knew that it was my Knackers, if you know what I mean, which was good because I liked the way that it stood out. So we've got the centennial hops, and I'm using a different yeast than I did on the original version. I used the British Safale yeast, or Safe Ale, whatever it's called. Today I'm using the Lallamand's Nottingham High Performance yeast. And I'm from Nottingham, so it gives me great pride into using this particular yeast. Haven't used it before, so it's going to be fun, I expect. And yeah, we're gonna get some grain in here. I'll speed this bit up, adding the grain. We've got our water just over 65 degrees. And I'm going to talk you through it. The bits that I can speed up, I will speed up. But I'm going to try and talk you through the whole brew so that you could possibly brew it yourself, if you so wish. If not, then yeah, fine, don't. I don't care. I do really. Brew my beer. And then tell me what you think. Oh, coffee. So, turn that gas off because we were just reheating the water a little bit because I was dicking around milling the grain and it did cool down a little bit. So I tend to have my water a little bit higher than what it's going to be mashed at. Simple fact being, as soon as you add your bag, if you're doing it the way that I'm doing it, and you add your grain, you are literally going to have a drop in temperature. It is going to happen. So we need to just structure the bag a little bit so that there's no too many flappy bits, so that we've got a good pool for the grain to go in, which is over here. And we're going to be mixing it in with my trusty drill because I just find it easier. Oh, we've also got, normally the original would have had 250 grams of brown sugar in. Now, I'm not doing that this year. I'm putting in 250 grams of dry malt extract, light dry malt extract. So it won't give it make it any darker, but what it will do is it'll bolster the ABV a little bit, which was what it was for. Now, if I get to finish this brew and I'm like, nah, it doesn't taste the same, the next one will have the God, my brain just gives up sometimes. Brown sugar in there. And there is an addition in this one as well, I believe, the flaked torrified oats. I don't think I used them last time. I think I used the Crystal 100 and the normal grain, base malt, as it is so called. So we're going to pop this in. All we're going to do is we're going to tip the malt in, and as we're tipping in, we're just going to make sure that it's slowly mixing it in. This stops any clumps forming, stops you getting massive big malt bergs, and just make sure that it's all going to be thoroughly mixed in and you're going to get a good extract from that. So let's speed this bit up a little bit. So that's that part done now. We have started the mash. This is going to take, we didn't take an actual temperature reading, which is what we should have done, which is what I should have done, sorry. To see what temperature the mash is at. Around 65 is what the aim is. If it's below that, we can always just turn the heat up a little bit, get it a little bit warmer. We'll probably check it at about the halfway mark as well. And just make sure it's maintaining its heat. Obviously I don't have a filament that's keeping it warm, so this is a very basic way of brewing. It's the cheapest way to start up doing it, and if you get good at it and you start wanting to be able to do a little bit more, by all means start buying the kettle and things like that. I like this way of doing it. It's simple, it's effective, and yeah, it's cheap. It really is. You know, all you need is a big pot, a massive big tea bag, if you think of it as a big tea bag, and yeah, you'll be brewing your own beers for many years. You have to change the bag every now and again, but you can get more sophisticated kits, so it depends what you're into, depends what you like, but this is the way I do it. So you can always adapt this to your own brew setup. That's not a problem at all. There's nothing that you couldn't do in your setup that I'm doing here. It's all exactly the same. Obviously you just do it with like a kettle boiler or whatever it's called. And yeah, we'll leave this for an hour. So we're going to set our alarm for 1 hour. It's at 65 degrees, which is what I expected it to be at. Set an hour alarm and a 45-minute alarm, and then at that 45-minute alarm we're going to start heating up the sparge water, and we'll explain what sparging is once we get to that point. So I'll see you in an hour. Okay, so that is the mash done. It's been in there for 1 hour now, and what we should have in here now is a load of liquid with tons of malt sugar in. We've heated our sparge water to 76 degrees. Now we're going to move over to the sink and we're going to do what we call sparging. Okay, so bless any mess that you can see. Not that I'm really that arsed. I'm not the tidiest of creatures, I don't pretend to be. We're going to take this hot water that we've heated, we're going to pour it into a vessel of some description, being extremely hot because this will scald your skin. It is 76 degrees, which is bloody hot. I work in Celsius. Sorry if you're American and you work in Fahrenheit, you just have to convert. Same with weights, we use grams, you guys use pounds, that's fine. Just convert it as close as you can if you want to brew this awesome beer. And it's sort of, in a way, in a style of what I would, now thinking about it, call an American IPA, where it's extremely hop forward. There's a couple of APAs that we've had, we get them locally from British brewers, and they really are like hop forward, extremely bitter, but I really like that. I think you can do a lot with a good bitter beer. You know, where it hits you at the back of your jaw, it's that bitter. That's what I'm talking about. Might not sound appealing to everybody, but let's just quickly move the empty homebrew bottles. And what we're going to do now is we're going to move the pan over to the sink. I'm going to remove the lid. Don't need that no more. That can just sit over here for now, out of my way. And we're going to lift this bag of grain out. Like so, keeping the grain in the bag. We're going to pull the drawstring tight, which is something I always forget to do, which will eventually help us, and we're going to just knot it around there for now, and then clench and hoy your bag up. And now all of that's going to drip into there. Get some sort of mesh. You put it over the top there, and then you can rest your bag down. See, I'm used to touching this, obviously. You just need to be careful, basically, is what I'm trying to say. It will burn you, and it will bloody hurt. But as I say, I've been doing this for years now, so I'm kind of used to it. I'm the only adult in this house as well, so it's me who has to wash all the pots and pans, other than the stuff that goes in the dishwasher. So I'm used to hot water, you could say. Right, so you want to try and make sure that that's as over the top of that as possible without, can we make that go round there and tuck it in something maybe? Just to kind of snag it, to stop it lolling over. Otherwise, when we do that with the water, it's going to pass over. So, on to what we call sparging. Most ways of brewing a beer will have a more sophisticated way of doing this. I'm just showing you how I do it. If you've got Sparge tools, use them. You probably get a better extract than what I will. But anywho, less of the chit chat. Oops. Just need to wipe my hands because they're sticky because I've just touched it. What we're going to do is simply, we are going to very slowly rinse this grain out. But before we do that, I'm going to add the bittering hops to what we call the first runnings, which is what is in there now. That is the first runnings. So I'm going to add my first lot of hops to that, which is a whopping 37.5 grams. Like I said, this is a very bitter beer. We do not shy on the bitterness with the Knackers yard. So I'm going to go away, weigh that out, and I'll be back in a second. And as I said, I'm going to add that to this first runnings. So these are just going to get dropped in there. Now this is something I learned to do recently with the last lot of beer that I did. I am just going to mix that in as well, just so it can start extracting. Now it's not at 100 degrees yet, so it's not going to be extracting the alpha acids per se, but what it is doing is it's starting a smoother bitterness. Instead of it being extremely in-your-face bitterness, it gives you a smoother bitterness. As I say, I've only started doing that recently, and I did plan to do it for this one, so I didn't do it for the original one of this that I did. I'm not even sure I'm running off the original recipe. I thought I'd put it in a smaller book, but I seem to have transferred it to a larger piece of paper. But there is some additions that are different in there anyway, because we've got the torrified flaked oats, which should add to mouthfeel. And we're literally going to do this until all this water has gone through this. Then we're going to squeeze the bag as much as we can to get as much of that liquid out of it, and then we start the boil. So I'm going to speed this bit up. Okay, so that is the Sparge complete now. What we do now is you get something to press this down with, and you just get all the remaining water, or wort as we call it, out of there as best you can. Don't worry too much about it. I've got a little tip that I do. I end up kind of like getting one of the clamps that I used earlier on, take this bag, put it into this, clamp it to the side, and it kind of drips off a little bit more. Normally you get another litre out of it easily, just from stuff that drips over time. And you just add that while it's boiling, it's fine. It won't cause it any problems whatsoever. I did see some guys create something that made a press, but it was just a lot of faffing around. It's a bloody good idea though, because obviously you think how much I've just got out of that there just from pushing this down. You want as much of what you can get, don't you really? And this should do about a 11.5 litre batch, maybe a little bit more, depending on how much of a good extract that we get. If we get a really good extract, we'll probably add a bit of water to dilute it slightly, because we don't want anything that's too, what's the word, too high ABV. 6 is around the mark of what I expect it to be when it's finished, or when it's ready to be had yeast pitched. About the 6 mark is what I aim for. That's what I have in mind. So now we can undo this knot, which is extremely hot. Like extremely hot. Might be able to just get a little bit of knot undoing it. Just clamp it like that, might be alright. I'm sure we'll find out in the next 20 minutes whether it's fallen down. So we don't need this anymore, that can get moved out of the way. Now this is our wort, and it is essentially just our water, sugars and hops. So the sugars will come out of the grain, and that's what we're going to be fermenting. So let's move it over to the pan. Okay, so this is what we've got now. This has got the first lot of hops in, which is going to be our bittering hops. Obviously I put that in as it was running out, and then that's obviously before it was boiled as well. So that's going to give us the same amount of bitterness once it's finished extracting, once the boil happens, but it gives us a more steady bitterness. A smoother bitterness is the way that it was described in this one recipe that I did, and it really did work well. I mean, I love Centennial hops. It was the first ever hops that I used, and it's why I put it in this beer. And yeah, so what we're going to do now is we're going to bring this up to the boil. Once it's at 100 degrees and boiling, we are going to set an alarm for 1 hour. It's a 1 hour boil time, and we've got additions during that boil time of 30 minutes towards the end. We have a 50 gram hop. I know it sounds excessive, it is excessive, but it makes sense. If you want to know what it tastes like, brew it. And this is halved from what I used to do. So I used to do the 40 pint batch of the liquid malt extract, and I've actually pared down all of the hops to accommodate it for a half a batch. Even though, you know, can you imagine how much hops went in it? It was crazy. It was absolutely crazy. When I think now that I know how to brew all grain, and I know the hop ratios you're supposed to use, or what most beer styles follow, but this isn't most beers, this is my beer. This will kick you in the jaw. And then we've got a 35 gram hop stand for 20 minutes at 80 degrees at the end. And then on day 5, we've got a 75 gram dry hop. So let us get this up to the boil, and then we'll be back. Okay, so we've got it now at a steady boil. It's just going to boil like that on a rolling boil like so. I'm going to make sure that we've got all of that hops keep on circulating in it, if you see it building up at the sides. Okay, so we've got that boiled. We've set alarms ready for 30 minutes and one set for an hour. So the hour is the first boil you do, the whole duration of the boil, and then the 30 minutes is where I'm putting in another lot of hops. At this point, we're going to be adding the dried spray malt, dried malt extract it's sometimes called as well. So in that's going to go, and hopefully not cause too much of a reaction. Should just behave itself. Let's hope it does. I'm going to give it a little dunk. I mean, it's going to be sterilised by the fact that it's going to be boiling for an hour, so it's not the end of the world. Ouchie. Ouch. But we want all that sugar in there because it's no good not dissolved. So that's probably all of it, apart from a microscopic amount, and we're going to mix that in. Make sure it gets fully dissolved into the wort, and that was 250 grams of light malt extract. And while I'm doing that, I'm going to pour a little bit of water over this grain bag that's hovering over there, just to try and sparge a little bit more out, and more importantly, make myself a cup of coffee at the same time. So a little bit more for the sparge thing. Again, this is around 70 odd degrees, didn't let the kettle boil all the way. And what we're doing here is we're just rinsing out any residual sugars from it. You couldn't see it was off camera, but it was doing the same thing as we were doing when we were sparging. So that goes over the top there, so that if it does decide to boil over, that will stop it. Don't know how it works, I do not understand the science behind it, but it works. We'll be back in 30 minutes and we'll see you then. So we're back, 30 minutes is up, and we are now going to be adding the 30-minute addition, which was 50 grams of centennial hops. We're going to mix that in, make sure it all gets a doing. But yeah, that is that in, and that's got 30 minutes. We'll be back once that has finished, and we'll get the hop stand on. Now, I think this is finished almost dripping out. I mean, we've got about 700 ml of liquid that's just been filtering through the bag. So we'll add that now, and we'll get rid of this bag of grain, because we're not going to get much more out of it. So pop that in there. It will change the temperature a little bit, but it will eventually get boiling, and then at least it gives that a little bit of a boil, 30-minute boil, to sterilise that. And it tops us back up a little bit as well, adding whatever sugars would have been left in the bag. Because let's face it, we've paid for it, so we want it in here. Back in 30 minutes. Okay, so that is the hour's boil complete. What we're going to do now is we're going to take our pan of molten hoppy liquid, and we're going to hoy it up over onto this bit here. We're going to take this sterilised immersion cooler. Now, if you're a home brewer, you've probably got one of these or something like it. If not, you can just put it in a bowl of cold water, or a sink of cold water, or a bath of cold water, just to bring the temperature down sooner. The reason why you need to bring it down as quick as possible is to stop any bacteria getting in there before the yeast can take hold and start causing that CO2 blanket of sanitizingness. So we're going to attach the thing to the tap here, and bearing in mind the water that comes out of here is going to be hot straight away. We're going to turn this on, and we're going to monitor this temperature, and then we're going to add our hop stand hops when it's at 80 degrees. It won't take long to get to 80 degrees, so we do need to monitor it as this goes. Crank that up as much as you can. So it's down to 76 at the moment, and obviously the water comes through here round the coil, chills the water in there, and brings down the temperature quite rapidly. So I'm going to keep tabs on what this is doing, and once it's at the 80 degrees we shall be back. Okay, so that's reading now at 80 degrees. I know you can't see me, but you don't really need to see me. What you need to see is what's going on. We then add this hops, which now will totally be nothing but aroma. There will be no alpha acids coming from this, and it will just be giving us extra hoppy flavour throughout. We're going to keep on mixing that. That's going to be in there for 20 minutes. Going to come back 10 minutes, give it another stir, and we shall be back, and we'll chill the wort down until it's ready to be having the yeast pitched. Alarm's about to go off, so we are back 10 minutes after. So this is halfway through the hop stand, and we're just going to give this a little stir up, get all that hops moving. Ouch, that's hot. Ouch, that's hot. This side isn't as hot. Yeah, we're just going to get that hops moving really. There you go, there's the alarm up. And let it sit for another 10 minutes. And this is going off any second now. Oh no, we've got 40 seconds. So in the next 40 seconds, I am going, I mean, to be fair, a couple of seconds doesn't really make much of a difference, but it says 40 seconds, so we'll wait. Once the alarm goes off, I'm going to switch this immersion cooler on, and it's going to chill this wort down to about 19 degrees is what I'm going to ferment it at. Now, I've got a beer fridge that I use just for beer, and I've recently started brewing beer in it as well because the temperature fluctuates in the house so much. It keeps it at a nice constant. I've got something called an ink bird, which you attach a I need to find a strap for that actually. And there you go, look. So I'm going to switch this on, and that'll get that chilling. I need to find, I've got a thing called an ink bird, sorry, that's what I was saying. And what it does is you plug it in, and you attach a strap to the outside of your fermenter, and it monitors the temperature and adjusts accordingly. So 19 degrees this is going down to, and then we'll be transferring it into the bucket, straining it through a filter to get the hops out, and yeah, onwards and upwards. Right, okay, so again, you're not going to see all of me, but you'll see what's going on, and that's more important. I'm just going to pop that over there now. We've cooled this down to 20 degrees. It will cool a little bit more eventually, so 20 is perfectly palatable. I just wanted to say something that began with P. So it's perfectly fine. And what we're going to do now is we're going to transfer this liquid from this in through this mesh net here. And what that's going to do is it's going to catch all the hops and any other debris that's in there, because sometimes you do get bits of the husk and stuff like that that do sometimes get through the bag maybe, and we're going to catch all of that as we go. So I'll start it off because we need to make sure that the tap on the bottom of this doesn't have an air pocket in it, because oxygen's bad for brewing. It's good at the beginning of the brew, but after the beginning of the brew is done, it is bad news. So as carefully as you can. You want to get some of this in there. Most of the hops is at the bottom now, so it's not going to start clogging up just yet. There we go, we're getting a bit of a cloggage now, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to double check that we do get that. Air bubbles out of the tap there. Oxygen's bad. Now this is rather heavy, obviously it's quite a lot of liquid, and all our hops did sit down to the bottom, which was really good, and we might get it all in one gloopy go, which I don't think I've ever done for a beer this size, because that was a lot of hops, so I am surprised. Obviously stand here as long as you can bother to. Every single drip is an extra bit that you're going to get in your mouth. You can get the hoppy bits in there as well, because that is holding moisture, but you don't need to go too far over the edge. As you can see, it's dripping down through the bag. It's catching all that hops and stuff. It can take a while to go through. I don't wait because I'm quite impatient. I'm gonna let that sit for a couple of minutes, let it just drain through whatever it can drain through. Then I'm gonna take it off and I'm gonna strain it like a tea bag, trying to get that last bit of hoppy goodness and wort out of it. So at the moment we've got almost 11 litres. So we're gonna take a hydrometer reading, and that will tell us what we are working with and whether we need to add any more water. It should be about an 11.5 kit, but I'm not sure, again, how much I got out of it last time. So the hydrometer's up and looking good, to be honest. We're starting off at, get rid of these bubbles, and we shall see what we've got. It's looking in the 60s. That says 66, but we're going to be using a digital hydrometer called a tilt. You don't need one, it's not necessary. I've only got one because I won it on a competition. They're like about 100 and, I want to say £120. I just so happened to win one on this competition. You should check them out, Tilt Hydrometer. They do competitions like every other month, and I just so happened to win one, which is why I've got one. Now they are brilliant because you don't have to open it up to know what's going on inside. It literally liaises with your phone through Bluetooth, and it tells you exactly what's going on. It tells you the temperature, it tells you what the current ABV is, it tells you what the gravity is. I don't think I could go back to not using one. I don't use one for my mead brewing, but that is a lot more simple because there's no unfermentable sugars. Beer has unfermentable sugars. I can't remember what they're called. I want to say that they're dextrins. Sugar is dextrose. I think they are dextrins. I might be wrong. Don't quote me on that. And I do have a brew day beer somewhere, but I think I've left it in the living room. So I've chatted enough Ross now for this to have gone through as much as it was going to go through. So let's see if we can push the issue and squeeze some more liquid out of this. And to be fair, you'd be surprised how much this bag can actually retain liquid wise. I mean, I don't know whether to add water. It's a possibility to add some water to it, maybe up to 12 litres whenever we're finished with what's draining out of this. I mean, 7.3 is not that bad. English IPA you did, that finished at 7. That was quite nice. That's what I've just opened, actually. No, I think we'll leave it. Then we'll see what the final gravity is, given with the recipe that we've used, and we'll just go from there. Now this is a bit of a laborious task, but I refuse to waste it. You know, there's clearly beer in there. It's my beer and I bloody well want it, even if I have to burst this bag open to get it. I mean, that is close now to the 11.5 litre mark, which is what I expected from it. Now all that's left to do is to take a hydrometer reading again, although it'll probably be the same, but now we're finished faffing around with all that because it's by volume, if you know what I mean. So give it a mix, make sure it's all mixy, and we'll just do another quick check. There's no harm in checking. It's better to be in the know, and obviously if I put the digital hydrometer in and it reads differently, I'll know that I need to calibrate it. It shouldn't read differently because I've already calibrated it in water earlier on. So the gravity of water is 1.000, or it's slightly under depending on which one you want to go by. But in most cases, your water's going to be 1.000. Once you start adding sugars to that, the gravity goes up, which makes this little thing go like that. The less gravity, down it goes. So that's how we are able to tell what alcohol's in. You may already know that, but if you didn't, now you do. Just got to give that a second or two to bob about. It's still at the 66, so that's what we're going to start it off at. We'll see what it finishes at, because if it finishes at 12 instead of the 10 I predict, 10 is just a general guess of what I think it might finish at. Until I've actually done this new part of the recipe, I don't know, because we've added different things in this time. We added the extra spray malt, and we added the torrified oats, which might give it a nice haziness. So I haven't used any finings in this. I don't find it necessary, to be fair. I'm very careful when pouring my beers when it's homebrew. I mean, even when it's not homebrew, I'm careful. Don't know why, it's just that automatic reaction. So all that's left to do now is to pitch some yeast, which we are going to do over here, only because I need an extension. Actually no, I don't, I just need a different socket. No, we'll do it over here, it's higher up, it's nicer, it's a better look. There. Swing that around here, put it up. The things I have to do just to capture a flipping video. We'll keep it all going into one, won't stop it, we'll just get it going. And what we're going to do now is we're going to chop open the yeast. Again, like I say, this is Nottingham high performance yeast. They managed to find a specific Nottingham ale yeast or something like that. Not sure how old it is, how long it's been going. And we're just going to sprinkle that around nice and evenly, getting it all over there. And that's an 11 gram packet, more than enough to do this. And we're going to get the mixer, we're going to get some oxygen in there, and time around. Still got a little bit of time to finish sorting this out before the kids come back. So now we're going to be mixing this in, and we're going to be getting some oxygen in there at the same time. And apparently splashing it all over the bloody place. The more oxygen at the beginning of the brew, the better. But you know, what you don't want to be doing is adding any oxygen later on. Because of it being a low ABV, the alcohol can't protect it. I have to say, this smells extremely hoppy. I kind of forget, you know, because I only brew it once a year, you kind of forget how hoppy it is. When you're doing other beers and things like that, because yeah, you just kind of forget. That's our yeast in now. This is going to go into the fridge that I'm brewing. It's got a heat thermostat thing on, which I need to find the actual tab for. So I'm glad I remembered. So what happens is we've got like a little thermostat node, kind of like what's on the end of there. Little thermometer thing that I use to check the temperature, and we wrap this around this, like so. Like so. And we'll then just pop this over there like that, tighten it back up, make sure it's all hunky-dory. Straps over this way so we bring it round. Make it just lasso through there so that it's nice and firm. We stick the node through that thing and then that measures the temperature of what's in here. Right now we can add this lid because we have finished the brew. Just over 11 litres. We probably lose about a litre every time because you get all the yeast particles that drop down to the bottom, but we're not too bothered about that. We always know we're going to get that. At least as long as I get 20 bottles out of a batch, I'm a happy bunny. Make sure your lid's on properly. Sanitize is the best way to keep your thing clean and stuff like that. Make sure your airlock's nice and firm. And this is going to go now into the downstairs utility room, into the fridge, where it's going to be modulated for approximately 5 days. I'll check it after 5 days, see what the gravity is, and that's probably when we're going to add the dry hops. Take it easy, and we'll be back to dry hop. Okay, so we've cold crashed this. It's down to 10 degrees now, and we're putting in the dry hops, which is 45 grams of. And we'll close that back up, and it will be staying there for another 3 days, and then we'll come back when we'll double check on it. Okay, so that is it now. Potentially finished. When I checked it last, it was around the 10 mark. The digital hydrometer, I think it's a bit knackered, to be honest, because it's registering something different. It's registering the temperature around about right, but it's definitely just not giving us the correct gravity. So my hands are clean, sterilised. So I'm going to take this hops bag out today. This is 3 days after. And this is still cold because obviously it's been in the beer fridge with the ink bird controlling its temperature. I did cold crash this, so that would have dropped it down to, I think it was 10 degrees. Just stops a bit of the vegetable aroma and flavours that you can get from the hops if the wort's too hot, or the beer. It's not wort anymore, it's beer. And I'm just going to rinse out the hops. For today, that is it. That is all we're going to do. Close it back up. Overnight this will come back up to room temperature, and tomorrow we shall bottle. Bada bom, bada bing. Just a quick video in the video to show you how I wash my bottles. I will be showing you how I'm going to bottle this and prime it later for carbonation. But really simple. Hot water, a little bit of soap, bottle brush, add a bit of soap to this. Let your bottle soak for a short while and literally get the bottle brush in there. Get some music on because this bit can be a bit mind numbing, and just literally give it a good scrub. Give it a spin so the bottom bit gets it. And then we're going to rinse all that soapy studs out. And then over here we have a little contraption, and this has got sanitizing water in, and you literally just push it down, it shoots up, coating all of the inside, and you'll see that the cap actually gets plunged into the water as well, making that sanitary. And then it goes down onto this rack here, which I use to hold them all, and it lets them all just drip out a little bit. And that's it, 20 bottles of that, and we'll be ready to start bottling over there. Okay, so we are over with the beer now. Night before, I took the hops out, squeezed the bag just to get any of the last bits of hops out, flavouring into the beer, left it at night, then let it come up to room temperature. So I brought this out yesterday. Let it come up to room temperature, and then we're going to be bottling this now. I've got 21 bottles washed. We've got 11.5 litres, but we're going to lose nearly a litre there anyway. So it swings and roundabouts. So everything's sterilised. Everything that's going to touch this is going to be 100% clean. First things first is we're going to jump up. And I know you can't see me, but that's not really a bad thing. It's definitely getting bottled. It's definitely finished, but we just need to take a final gravity so we know what we're actually working with. The tilt hydrometer, I'm having mixed results with. At first it was absolutely on point every single time. Could not fault the damn thing. And now it's telling me that it's gone past the point of any sugars being in there whatsoever. So, I mean, to be fair, it has actually fermented a little bit further out. It was on 10, it's now on 6. So, yeah, even though the hydrometer's, the digital hydrometer is reading differently, it says, that says it's at 1.000, which is clearly not, because it's at 1.006. Which means we've got a little bit more alcohol than what was expected. I expected this to finish at around 10-ish, which is what I thought it was going to finish at. Now we do have a bit of a haze to this because I put flaked torrified oats in. And haze isn't always what's good. It is very bitter. It is very, very bitter. But that's how the original was. And I make this in memoriam for a friend, as I say, so I'm never going to change that. It's just one of those that can catch you a bit off guard. It gets right at the back of your jaw, that's how bitter it is. Not bad. Not bad at all. So, the rest of that can go into this bottle because it is sterile. But that was nice. And putting the hops in, the bittering hops, putting it into the first runnings, which is as you've lifted your bag out and whatever's then left at the bottom, your first part of the wort, you add it to that, and adding the hops, the bittering hops at that point that I did at the first runnings, it really made a big difference. So we're going to switch our tap around, and I have sterilised the wrong McDoofer. So I'm going to go sterilise the right one. This one's for bottling mead. 10 minutes later, we're actually ready with the correct one. It just needs time to sterilise, and then we flip the tap on. We find our little drinky glass and we take some out. This is going to be extremely cloudy and probably have a load of yeast in it, so we're going to bypass that. I know we do lose a little bit, but that's life. So what we're going to do now is we're going to use the bottle one. We're going to be bottling this. I'll show you a couple to start with, and then I'm going to speed the rest up. Once you've seen them done, you've seen them done. There's no real difference. They just took a massive chunk of clag as well. And move it to the side. Grab another bottle. And you literally do this as many times as you can. Sometimes I get 20, sometimes I get 21. On some occasions I have had 19 or 18. It mainly depends on how much yeast is produced, how much the colony reproduces before it's actually set in its ways. And just find somewhere to line them up and just continue the process. Keep going and keep going and keep going, and then eventually we'll come to priming these, which is adding a tiny bit of sugar, which then kickstarts the fermentation. Okay, so that is it bottled. We've got 20 bottles out of that, which is what I always expect. I'm a bit miffed if I don't get at least 20. But 20 is a good number. I like it. So we're now going to prime these, which is how I carbonate mine. I use natural carbonation. Move my little drips bucket, which collects all the bits while I'm bottling. And so what this does is it starts the mini fermentation. 1 teaspoon of sugar starts a mini fermentation, and what then happens is the CO2 that's released while the fermentation process happens, it can't go anywhere, thus being forced into the beverage, and then it's all called bottle conditioned, or it's also called natural carbonation, I think. I just know it as priming. Now you can do this on scale, so if you knew how much you had in your bucket, you could transfer that into a clean bucket and then add the appropriate amount of sugar, mix it in gently, and you would indeed have the right amount of sugar in there to then them to all thingy. But I just do it like this. I think it's a little bit more simple to keep track of, and I'm going to speed the last 10 up because you've just seen me do 10, so it's a bit pointless. Sometimes you do get a little bit of foam happening, nothing to worry about, something to do with the chemical reaction happening as the sugar goes in. But yeah, don't worry about that, and we'll continue this. This is going to be the end of the video, so I'll say tatty byes now. Thank you very much for watching if you've got this far, and I hope you like this beer if you do attempt it. Again, it's very hoppy, but it's also very, very nice. And this one's going to be, so a quick calculation on the ABV actually, it's gone above what I thought it was going to be, which is sometimes an issue. It started at, what did it start at? 1.066, and it's down to 1.006, so 7.9%. That's nearly a double IPA, isn't it? So yeah, but 7.9%. Nice. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all soon.